Here's my 1988 ski Nautique 2001 model. I bought this boat a couple months ago in May, beginning of May, I believe. Bought the boat not running. It had been sitting for about 6 years. So first thing I did when I bought it was check the drain plugs on the block down here. And they had antifreeze in it, so I was like, okay, that's a good sign. Motor was pretty tight, so I put some oil, some lube down in the cylinders. Bought it, it had no spark plugs in it. They had been working on it, couldn't get it. So I turned it over by hand. What I did was I got it to fire off. Really didn't have to do a whole lot. I changed the impeller. That's always a must after these boats have been sitting. That fuel pump's fresh. They had an automotive fuel pump with a rubber line going to the carb with a oil pressure gauge. I didn't like it, so I went back to like the factory setup, just because it looks cleaner. It operates a lot better in my opinion, and I didn't like it. Had an adjustment on that fuel pressure gauge, and you know, it was kind of weird. So the major thing we had to replace was the distributor. So I know it doesn't look new. It's a new old stock part I found on eBay, but we actually had the boat running. I was getting ready to time it, and the rotor, we lost spark, and I couldn't figure it out. So I got a new coil, popped the dizzy cap off, and sure enough, rotor was not spinning. So I was like, okay, you know, we tried to pull the distributor out. It fought us pretty hard. So we messed with that a little bit and figured out that when we finally got it out, it wasn't even the gear that goes down in the engine. There's a plastic gear tab that connects. So the engine was still spinning the distributor, but the plastic, it's a shitty design, but the plastic cap broke, or tab broke, and it wasn't spinning the rotor. I mean, I couldn't even find anything about it, so I don't know how big a deal it is, but being that this boat's 36 years old, I'm not surprised. I didn't go to electronic ignition because I don't care about doing all that. I don't mind points. You know, when points are working, they're working great. So they're working now, so I'm not worried about it. But I timed the boat, which helped tremendously, and it runs really good. The only thing we had other than that, you can probably see where I've been beating on the bowl. We went out for like the first trip, and after having the throttle going, obviously not at idle, you know, probably going 20-30 mile an hour, come back to idle, just dumping fuel. So I had a rebuild kit, so I replaced the needle and seat for the float, and that helped it. So haven't had to do a whole lot, knock on wood. We've messed around with the interior a little bit. I'll show you a little bit. Ignore the upholstery, it's absolutely horrible. I gotta get a new dash piece. That's on my plan, obviously. The dash is not in terrible shape. This gauge is off by, you know, 12-13 mile an hour. This one works great. RPM gauge doesn't work. Something, I mean, it's loose in there. Something stupid. I haven't figured it out yet. I haven't really played with it. I'm not too worried about it. It probably just needs a new gauge. Most of these boats come with a clock, and it was missing. 936 hours, if it'll focus. Fuel gauge does work, which is a plus. Oh, while I'm looking at the temp gauge, we did replace the, what's it called? The thermostat. This is the left-hand rotation, I believe. It's counterclockwise. I don't remember if that's right hand or left hand. It's one of the two. But the only other thing while I'm up here that we had, I checked the fluid, and the fluid in this was really sticky and tacky, like almost when you'd rub your fingers together. It didn't look great, is what I'm gonna say. So I pumped it out, did a couple cycles, and but other than that, I mean, but here's the boat. The decals are faded, and I need to get new decals. I tinted it, but I did a terrible job. So it's got the original trailer though, which is huge. That alone's worth some money. So I knew I was good with what I paid for the boat. But yeah, could probably put some decals on it. I had it wired up, the trailer lights, but I think I got something kind of issue up front, so I gotta fix that. But yeah, I mean, I love these boats. I really do. I mean, they're fun little boats to have. They're real nostalgic. They turn a lot of heads on the water. It's a cool boat. I mean, obviously it's a project. So it could have been running in 18. It could have, might not have, but he told me 6 years. I believe him on that. My last boat I had was the Ski Centurion, or however the hell you say it. Some people say it different. And I had a lot of fuel problems out of that. The fuel tank was awful. I pulled the tank 3 to 4 times. I have a video, a short or whatever, up in on the channel of it running, but it was a good boat, but I didn't like it, got rid of it. I've always wanted a Nautique, so came across this butte. I'll see if I can put some pictures of what it looked like when I first got it. Here's the boat when we first picked it up. Very moldy and does not look the best. Obviously hadn't been covered in years and just left out to take all the elements, but still caught my eye and I was ready to get to work on it. We put some cheap carpet in it. I know it looks like shit. Don't hate on me. I'm not spending the kind of money to do upholstery right now. We actually use these boats to pull. And I mean, obviously upholstery is a big part of a boat. It looks good, stuff like that. But hell, I'm not worried about it. We were out on the water the other day and we're just going and it just shut off and it would not crank for probably 30 minutes. Stupid issue, obviously. I pulled the line, it had fuel, it was pumping fuel. I was getting ready to check spark, and it seemed to me like 1 minute the bowl would have fuel in it, the next minute it wasn't. So I kind of thought maybe the float was stuck, so I kind of hit it a couple times, and sure enough, after that, I guess fuel was able to be let in, and it cranked, ran, and we ran it for the rest of the day fine. But yeah, I mean, you can't beat these old 351s. They're good motors. I guess my plans for the boat in the future is obviously would like to clean the engine up. I think we want to go C-deck in the inside upholstery. I got to get this on order. That's coming like soon because that's annoying. You know, that looks like shit. Excuse my French, but other than that, boat, oil pressure when you're running, temps great. I mean, you know, boats like these, if you're getting into this sort of thing and something's been sitting, as long as it's winterized, obviously your car is pretty much always going to have to be cleaned. Even if they run non-ethanol in it, I go through it. These people did, and I run non-ethanol in all my boats. If it's got points, clean those points, check those points, coil. It's pretty simple when it comes down to it, you know. No, we just want to get out in the water. I like to surf. I've surfed behind those big boats, those newer boats, and it's awesome, don't get me wrong, but there's nothing better than, I think for this being an 88, it still looks really good. And like I said, I pull up somewhere, I have people ask me questions. I love that. They're like, man, that boat's nice. I skied behind that boat when I was your age back in the day. I know, I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's cool to have that kind of interaction with people. So, you know, like I said, if you're getting into it, it's not, I don't want to say it's not rocket science. I've done 2. The first one I did was sitting for 11 years. 2 boats that were sitting. So the first one I got, I'll put some pictures up of it as well. Sitting for 11 years, same motor, but a Cleveland, pretty much the same thing. A couple differences. I couldn't even tell you off the top of my head what they are, but they look almost identical. A bunch of fuel problems out of it. The fuel sock or whatever you'll pick up in the tank rotted off, so bunch of bullshit out of that boat. Got it running, sold it to the guy, and he overheated the boat like an idiot after 1 season. That impeller that's behind there in that pump is one of the most important, if not the most important part of this boat if you're running it all the time. If this boat's running good and you're running it a lot, you know, even if you're running it a lot of people say, oh, those fins go bad when they sit up. Absolutely they do, but when you're running it, they're going to go bad too. So the rule of thumb's every 50 hours, but when you order one, go ahead and order another one and keep it on the boat. Like, I have an impeller in my glove box, brand new impeller, ready to put in. I mean, that's something you can do on the water if you see your temp not liking to stay at around 160. I think the thermostat in these boats are 143 or something, or maybe it's a 160 that I put in it, but it stays at 160. Don't be afraid if you're riding and it gets up a little bit, or if you come off of pulling somebody and you're idling and it's at like 180, that's normal. But as long as it comes back down, if you see it keep rising and rising, you better shut the boat off immediately. these are just good boats. I really am happy with it so far. Not, like I said, knock on wood, because you can be on the water and something go wrong. But what I do like too is, look, pull the cover off, and the people that own these boats know just as much as I do, I can get to virtually anything on this motor without, you know, minus a couple serious issues, without pulling it. I mean, if I had a carb issue, the carb's right there. Distributor, coil, you know, water strainer. I've learned so much just playing around with these boats, and it is a great feeling when you're on the water and you brought something back to its glory. It's just something that puts a smile on my face like no other. So I really have enjoyed it so far. These are good boats. Find one that's not running. You know, when you go look at it, make sure you look at it thoroughly, and make sure it's not going to be something where you're going to get home and it's got a cracked block or something stupid that's really going to cost a lot of money. But I think all in all, I want to say we probably got $3 grand in this boat total. And we got a starter. The starter was one of the most expensive parts because it's a counterclockwise rotation. So it was hard to find that. The distributor was $150. So we've spent some money. We're not about getting the boats perfect. We're about bringing it back to life and either selling it to somebody who can finish it off, or this boat has a special place in my heart right now. I'm thinking about keeping it and really, really getting it nice. So once again, I'll show you the back because I know I haven't been back here yet. The only decal that's really in decent shape, and hell, it's not even in the best shape. I still need to pressure wash that part of the rope. I really do like this rope, how they did that though. Love that. So like I said, I'll be posting here soon. I'm gonna put some footage of us out in the water, and let me know down in the comments if you guys would be interested in seeing another version of this, something that's been sitting boat wise. I know there's plenty of videos on cars and trucks that have been sitting. I don't see a lot of ski boat stuff. So if you're into that kind of stuff, hit subscribe, comment, like, let me know what you guys want to see, and I'll post some stuff on maybe what I'm looking at and what I'm thinking about doing. But I will keep you posted. Thanks for tuning in at 704 Motorworks.